All right, well, welcome to Java Posse episode 100.
100.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. Hey, where's your beers?
Oh,
I drank
These
your
guys
beer
need
already.
beers.
Yep, we forgot our beers.
What do you need?
Sierra Nevada Pale.
Spotting.
You got it?
whatever's
All right,
left,
Jack.
I
Joe,
guess.
hey. Thank you.
Early beer for Tor.
Yeah. I'm drinking Gatorade.
I know you guys.
There were no margaritas.
Exactly the 101st episode. If you count the episodes properly, starting at 0.
That's right.
It is indeed the 100th episode.
I was actually going to point out that a slightly different reasoning. You are correct. If you start from 0, this is the 100th. But also, the first episode, for anybody who remembers it, was actually one that I recorded as part of the Java cast. So it was kind of an unofficial Java Posse episode, that one. It wasn't the full one. So the first one that we did together was episode number 2. Hey, I see a hand up there. What's up, Liz?
We have questions.
Don't you think for anyone who's worked at Oracle or has used Oracle data model, they'll have no problem with your numbering?
That was for anyone who's worked on Oracle JDeveloper. They'll have no
Episode 100.0.1.0.2 release 4.
That's right.
update 5
Yeah.
preview.
I
Yeah,
guess we should do our standard intro. So I'm Joe Nuxoll from Apple.
I'm Dick Wall from Google.
Not New Energy.
Not New Energy. I got it right.
I'm Carl Quinn from Google.
And I'm Tor Norbye from Sun Microsystems.
So, all right.
We have no real agenda tonight.
Well, we kind of have some news to go through.
Okay.
I do want to hit the roundup because that's kind of important.
Yes.
We are doing the Java Posse roundup in Crested Butte, Colorado. There was a bit of a blow up. I mentioned it on the 99.5 episode, which was that a couple of people were upset at the wording of the license that they had to sign the release form. We intend to release all audio. I've talked with Bruce Eckel about this. We intend to release all the audio under the Creative Commons license, probably the non-commercial one. Still working through the details on that, but it will go out under some kind of Creative Commons license. We're not trying to get rich off of anyone. We're just trying to do the right thing. But in order to do that, the lawyers say we do have to get the full rights to the audio, which is the reason why the release has to be signed. We can't just throw something out there that people turn around and say, hey, I didn't want that going out. So that also raises the point that you guys could be recorded here, and it's going to go out publicly. So if anybody's not happy with that, now is the time to make a discreet exit.
Leave.
Go away.
So we
We'll
should
be on
probably do
Google video, right?
a little bit more housekeeping. You mentioned we're here, we're recording this live. We also have to say, since it's a live audience, we should point out we work for various companies that we cannot talk about any proprietary stuff from our company. So if you have questions
Basically, Joe gets in
near the
trouble
end,
when
yeah,
he says
you can't talk about anything proprietary at all.
Hey, Joe, do you have a new iPhone?
Actually, I did. I brought the iPhone, which I can show people a little bit later.
Yeah.
But got it here. There's the iPhone.
Wow.
And it's cardboard. So many people at work made those. Some website put up a PDF file with the perfect proportions you could print out and cut cardboard and put it together. There's all these people are like, hey. Except for Steve. He's like, ting, ting, ting.
That's too awesome. All
So,
right.
I'm just curious, is there anyone in the audience who's not from Google?
Yeah,
we got
That's good.
That's
And
quite
are
a
you
few.
here to listen to us or to talk to Google recruiters? Okay.
They got their names on the computers on the way in.
All
so.
right, okay. All right, so let's go into the news.
All right.
We should have Nikki do one of the news items.
Yeah.
Hey, Tor, why is your hat so messed up?
Yeah, for those of you who haven't listened a long time, my hat was actually stolen last year. From we're in the bar after Java 1. And some guy ran up to me and took my hat off my head and ran out. We all thought it was a prank, but
It never came back.
yeah, no. Well, the CIA returned it to us. It came out of a crocodile belly in Brazil, I think.
A little the worse for wear.
The real
No,
story
it's
is a little
actually
better.
been sitting in a box in Carl's house since they ordered the replacement, and they didn't take it out until today. And this is the result. This is why you don't pack your suits in a box, apparently.
That's why you don't keep your giant foam clothes in a small box.
All right. So should we do some of the news?
Let's do
items?
some news.
All right.
This is you, Dick.
All right. This is me. All right. So first up, Java 1 2007 registration is now open. Last couple of days this happened. It's the time of year again. You can register for Java 1 2007. This year's event has an expanded topic coverage. We've mentioned this before, but it's basically going to be talking about a number of new things, including a Web 2.0 track, which has some of the stuff on mashups, which are all the rage right now, putting Google Maps and realty sites together and that kind of thing. There's going to be alternate languages for the JVM track, which is scripting and other languages like Scala, maybe.
Yeah, there's a big
Possibly
scripting
Scala?
track this year, so
I bet.
There's a couple of people like Scala, so
Did we get our buff again?
we don't know yet.
I submitted, but
Okay,
we
good.
haven't heard.
All right, we'll
Yeah,
find
I
out.
think we probably.
The BOF
we-
is the
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 Java
best BOF
Posse
at Java
live
1. It's the Java
recording
Posse live
BOF.
session.
Yeah.
What track?
Oh, it's
Cool
cool,
stuff.
cool stuff.
Cool
we're
stuff
on.
track.
Yeah, the fools think we're cool.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, last
there you
year
go.
we actually had a line out the door, so I'm pretty sure we're going to get it again.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And there's also the mashing up, an open source technologies track as well, so that's pretty cool. And there's plans to do, we've mentioned the BOF. The conference is taking place in the Moscone Center, San Francisco, from May 8th to the 11th, Tuesday to Friday. Number of events happening on the Monday beforehand as well. And there's a Glassfish gathering this year, which I think I'm going to hit. I've been to the developer days beforehand a couple of times, and Glassfish is too good to miss as a server guy. We're going to be there. There's also the usual tiered pricing. So if you sign up before April 4th, you get a price break on it. I think it's like $1,800, something like that. There's also the $150 pass, which is the show floor, the pavilion. And there's a business track. I don't know if this was in there before.
In the first Java ones, it was there. I think they dropped it for a while.
Okay,
It's back, I believe, because the startup market's starting to ramp up again.
right. So the
Google
business
people
track.
plug your ears. It's not true.
Business track is Tuesday only, $350. You get to watch the keynote, and you get to go into the some of the business tech tech sessions for that day.
But you have to wear a tie so they can tell you apart from the engineers.
That's right.
Yeah, and you're treated like a second-class citizen.
Well, they used to do that. If you remember the earlier, how many people have been to their
They
Java
still do
1
that.
for a long time? How about all of them? I went to all but one. At the very beginning, John Gage used to go up there and say, okay, how many of you are suits? The people that were suits would stand up. He said, all right, how many of you are engineers? And the engineers would stand up. And he'd say, okay, suits, you need to go talk to as many engineers as you can. Engineers, you need to go talk to as many suits as you can, because the climate was around starting new companies. So they had all this stuff, VCs doing panels talking about how to get funding and whatnot. And then the bubble popped. That kind of disappeared for a while, but I guess it's back.
It's blown up.
Yeah, ba-boom.
All right, so who's going to take the controversial one this week?
Not me.
Well, whoever can see the screen.
Oh, this is the good one. So, so we talked about the iPhone in our last podcast, and I was really excited about it because I thought, finally, a cell phone that I want to program for. But it was a bit of a cold shower the next day to read the press that basically says that the iPhone will probably not have Java on it, and even if it does, it won't be open to development. You can't actually put any applications on it. It's going to be a finished consumer device, closed and locked for all. So the blogosphere has been pretty pissed off about it.
Yeah.
I can't
Joe,
say it.
Joe,
Can't
Joe
say anything.
can't say anything, so
Joe
we
will tell
shouldn't.
us the inside scoop.
Yeah, we shouldn't put Joe on the spot.
Well, I can
so.
see the thing, I do want to make one comment in that there was some particular things said that were taken out of context. Because you read the original source interview of Steve, they were talking about Safari, Java and JavaScript and Flash support in Safari, and that's what his responses were about. And those were taken straight out of context, and there was massive amounts of discussion around those statements taken out of context, and that's...
There was a couple of
That's
slightly
true, but
pointed statements, though.
he did say that Java is basically
An old ball and chain, I think, was
which makes you think
the
that you probably
phraseology
wouldn't
used.
want that for desktop, even though it wouldn't be in the browser.
Yeah. And there is a pretty big J2ME market out there that you have to consider, I think, if you're making a phone these days. There's
I
a
think
lot of
basically
games.
we're not the target customer for Steve Jobs,
Yeah.
which I can understand. There's fewer
There's
developers
only
than
four
there's.
of us, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not going to make a lot of money.
Didn't Java Posse
Didn't
as
you
well.
just buy an iPod just the other day, as a matter of fact?
Yeah, I bought a shuffle, but I
Oh,
can't
okay.
program
Just
the shuffle. I want a touchscreen device to program. That would be nice. But I can understand that there's a market for a phone that works. I want one of those too,
Yeah.
but I also want to program it.
2 people.
Hey.
Hey, there's two. All right.
Hey, friend of Rob.
Hello, 2 people.
Santa
Hey, where
Monica.
are those guys? That's
Those
Santa
are guys
Monica?
from Santa Monica.
Nice.
And the empty room is probably Kirkland.
Yeah, so for our listeners, we're looking at these video conferencing screens from other Google sites that have a feed from this. And we have a grand total of 2 listeners.
Very active listeners.
Nice.
All right, so did we kill this one already? I guess we're racing through them so that we can get to the
Well, let's
interesting
do
stuff.
any
and
comments out here about that.
Ask questions, yeah. Yeah, there's a wireless mic, actually, we can pass around here.
Oh, okay.
Let me see if I can.
I'll hold this one.
Here, I got
Geraldo,
the
go
lav.
do it.
I'll run. I got the lav.
All right, I think it takes 3 seconds to warm up, apparently, and then it's...
1, 2, 3. Oh, start with you.
Dick.
I'm Carl.
Well,
We're using the mic because
Introduce yourself first.
Oh, okay. My name is Jason Spersky from Blue Jay Creative Solutions, and as a Java developer, I feel your pain about not being able to write desktop apps or cell phone apps. But you do get a web browser, and that's a lot of power if you use it right. I think Google especially, but a lot of people could really appreciate the ability of a full desktop class web browser on a cell phone.
Oh, I'm still going to get one.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
It's a gadget, we're going to get it.
Yes.
Just going to pass behind you. There's another one.
All right, so I'm David Heron from Sun Microsystems. And the thought I have with this device is it probably doesn't matter that this phone doesn't have Java. The point for me is that these these small devices, they're just getting more and more powerful. And what we saw with that phone is like a preview of what is going to be common like 2 or 3 years from now. And okay, so maybe Steve is closed-minded about Java and doesn't want it, but somebody else will.
But the impression I got from the keynote was there's this huge legal barrier with like 100 patents that are filed on this, right? So even if Nokia wanted to build a device like this, they couldn't. They'd be taken to court. So,
Right, they've gotta
if
make it
Apple
different.
doesn't give us this
Yeah.
device, we're not going to have anything else for a while, unless, we get it out of China or something.
Pass this around.
But I think it sets the bar, right? So you've got this device that's got regular Wi-Fi, it's got the cellular network. Actually, I think it's pushing the cell phone providers to provide better network connectivity. And so that Apple will do everybody a big
It's certainly
service there.
visual voicemail, not having to sit and click 7 to delete your message, just be able to skip right to the third one, or even just see the name and go, I don't need to listen to that.
Right.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
So the browser will definitely help, I think. That'll be something that gives it more
I really want to run
functionality.
NetBeans on my thing when I'm sitting in the, talking to these guys and
Yeah,
they're talking about REST versus SOAP. I need some kind of.
Oh, that's funny. I don't know if anybody heard that episode, but we got in this discussion, this heavy debate with the 3 of us.
I totally read the signs wrong because I was like, we've been on this 25 minutes now. People are going to start like throwing things through our windows if we don't get off of it. And so I kind of moved us along. And I got so many emails after that. I'm like, let him talk.
Yeah, it was getting
excellent. That was a
entertaining.
brilliant segment.
And
So-
poor Tor, who hates that kind of stuff, was just like, God, are you guys done yet?
I was polite. I didn't say anything. I was browsing the web. I was coding. But then after about 15 minutes, I hit the IRC channel that we have in the background and
You were coding.
got us back to something interesting.
So it wasn't the first time you've coded while on the podcast, then
No.
the other night.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
All right.
Cool.
All
Any
right,
other-
what's next up?
Let's move on.
I think it's time for Nikki.
We got to at least cover the news.
Okay, so this is
Pretty
This is you
Tor-esque.
again.
I guess this is me. So we have some NetBeans news. I thought we were going to shorten this a little bit.
Just skip
don't
what
Okay,
you
so
covered.
I'll
This
just
fast,
I'll
read
just riff.
fast.
So basically, there's a new milestone. We're tracking all the Eclipse and NetBeans milestones now. So NetBeans 6 has a milestone out, milestone 6, that has basically more complete. So if you remember, milestone 5 is when all the new Java editing infrastructure came back in, totally based on Java C, complete rewrite from previous releases. And in milestone 6, they've added back a lot of things they had to disable because of that rewrite. And there's some other stuff. There's Ant, there's some Tomcat. And the thing that I guess Dick wanted to talk about was the UI gestures collector,
The gestures.
Yeah.
the
So
Big Brother module.
yeah, the Big Brother module. So I was reading about this. Initially, when I first saw this, I thought it was going to be something a little like Mylar in Eclipse, which is the gestures thing there that kind of figures out where you are in the project and it limits what you see, so that in a really large project, when you're editing a particular file, it shows you maybe 1 or 2 degrees of separation from that other classes, helps you cope with a really, really large project where you've got tons of different files. when I started reading this, I was like, man, what these guys are doing is just collecting a bunch of information and then uploading it to some central server.
That's precisely right. That's what they're doing.
Where it's not entirely clear what is done with that information. It's like, oh, look, this code was added. So basically, explain
right
to me and everybody else.
Well, it goes right to central services. They dispatch somebody to fix your
That's right.
plumbing.
It's part of the carnivore system from the government, to track and hunt down terrorists, depending on what you're coding. No, it's basically they tapped into the UI system so they can track all the actions you're doing, all your keystrokes, and basically logging it as UI events. And the purpose for all this is to get data about what features people are using and what their workflow is.
And what
So
your passwords are.
Yeah, it's a key
No,
locker.
actually, when it's gathering it, but it's not uploading it. You have to basically click on the submit button and say, I want to submit this data. And there's some wording to try to entice you to do that. You're helping out, right? But you can actually view the data before it's submitted, and then you get to this website where all the data is publicly available, and you get some graphs. And the whole intent is to discover that, well, no one is using this feature, so either we can just stop working on it, or we have to figure out why they can't find it or something. So it's basically a way to get more information about what people are doing and maybe try to improve workflow and investments. So that's what it's for.
So when you find out nobody's using your feature, Tor, you have to call all your friends and tell them to start using it more.
Yeah.
I'll have to write a little script, to game it. Yeah.
JRuby. We need more people doing JRuby.
Yeah, so that's Milestone 6. Milestone 7, hopefully my Ruby stuff will go in, so I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
And I think...
Anything else on there for this? Oh, I think we're going to skip the predictions. We'll have a link to the predictions. I thought they were interesting, but not terribly risky.
Yeah.
I think they could have made some
Risque?
Definitely
more risky
playing it
ones.
safe.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, hey, hang on.
Oh, hold on.
Geraldo, we need to have Geraldo run over with the mic.
We've got to get
We're
the mic
recording, so you got to use
Geraldo.
Yeah. There you go.
All right, so I was curious if when you're collecting these events, are you also collecting like GUI response times so you could measure responsiveness?
There's a bunch of data, and I haven't looked carefully at it, but for each event, there's about 6 lines in the XML entry, and I think it actually has some sequencing information. It might have timestamps. So you might notice that, well, at this time you created the project, and about 16 seconds later, you opened the file. It might have stuff like that, but I honestly don't know, and it's configurable at this point. I think they're still tweaking what they want to collect.
Right.
And I actually think the Mylar stuff is interesting, and that's certainly, I think, the next step, to start looking at task-driven development as opposed to just file-driven development.
Well,
But that's not there yet.
And I'm being very careful not to say too much, but working on a very large project, something like Mylar would be really useful, because you get a few hundred files in there, and it's pretty tough to find your way around sometimes.
You have a few hundred files and stuff in Google?
Yeah, I'm being deliberately vague, I guess. So.
All right.
Cool.
So the Eclipse coverage, I guess someone else should take that.
Carl, you're up.
Okay.
Whoa.
Should have read this ahead of
Jumped
We
on
should
me.
have had our laptops so we can
Hang
actually
on,
look
hang
at it. I can't get this to
Slight
can't get on the
technical
network.
hitch.
Yeah, I guess one of my fingers died because the 2-finger scrolling didn't work. There you go.
Okay.
Do you want to stand over
I
here?
can stand over here and just sit here back and read.
This is kind of silly for the audience because they can all look at it.
Yeah.
Usually, when we do this, Dick does all the work. So we basically, as you can see, we sit and we read the stuff, and that's why sometimes when we
First,
quote,
the Eclipse
when we say things
Foundation
like, "And this
has
is really
joined
nice," we're really
industry
thinking.
standards groups.
Hold on, quick segue about that. The way we usually work is not in front of a bunch of people with a big hat on. We usually are,
No, we're at home alone
Yeah.
in our underwear with a big hat on.
basically, the hat has to be on. Typically, we're in our own homes. Dick used to live on the other side of the country, but now he's here. Thank you, Google. You're sitting at your house with your headset on, and we're recording our own feed, and we're on a Skype conference call. So at the beginning of the conference call, whoever's hosting the conference call will do a count. You can simulate the count. 1, 2, 3,
4.
1, 2, 3,
4.
1, 2, 3,
4.
So we have 4 audio streams, and at the beginning of the audio stream, we have real obvious spikes, so we can line them all up so they're the same, and then we mix them all together in a board. So that's our normal thing, and we're sitting in front of our own screen reading our own notes, and we put, okay, Joe's going to do this, Tor's going to do this, Dick's going to do this, Carl's going to do this.
My name's not on that. I don't have to.
Yeah, so he doesn't know how to read now. Just so you know, a little of the process of doing a podcast across the planet.
These are pretty typical of the notes that we use.
Yeah.
every
So I guess
week,
the most interesting one of this whole Eclipse thing is that they've joined the JCP.
Yeah, that's
that's been
pretty big
an
one.
issue for a long time.
So what is that going to mean in practice? Anyone have any predictions?
We had hoped that they would bring their standards forward first through the JCP.
So do you think this means that, or do you think this is a checkbox?
I think it might mean that. I mean, now that Java's open source, it's another open source group. I think they're thinking in terms of better collaboration, like things like JSR 273 to have real legit support instead of.
But do you think we'll see a JSR? I mean, do you think we'll see a JSR for SWT?
No.
For example, well,
I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb and risk some flame mail on this one because it's a 100th episode. Why not? So I think one of the things that the big blow up over JSR 277, the component architecture and the OSGI stuff, is that OSGI, everybody, all the IBM camp was saying, well, they should have used OSGI, but the problem was it never got submitted to the JCP. It was submitted afterwards. Right, I think it was 291, but yeah, same difference. Could be either. But if they'd have got in there earlier and done that, there's every chance that 277 would not have been what it is. It wouldn't have been this divisive issue. OSGI would have been adopted. It would have been taken in by everyone, and it would have been extended in the ways it needed to be. The problem was they missed the chance to do that. Hopefully this means that won't happen again. Hopefully this means that we'll all play in the same sandbox, and these standards will get a full airing. And yeah, so that's kind of what I'm looking for from this.
Yeah, it might ease some of the politics a little bit.
Yeah.
The IBM Sun friction. Why can't you guys just get along?
Anybody here from IBM?
No.
Oh,
okay.
Man.
Yeah, let's just call it the IBM
Could have done
friction
something symbolic.
Prank call.
Yeah.
I think we should do that.
Okay.
So hang on, before we go on, there is the Web Tools project, Carl. Probably worth mentioning that.
You read that one.
All right. So the Eclipse Web Tools project, it now provides many of the JSR implementations, including 244, which is Java EE 5 Enterprise Edition, JSR 220, which is EJB3 Enterprise Java Beans, JSR 127, JSF, or Java Server Faces, and more. So they're starting to bring in a lot of the standards into the Eclipse Web Tools project, which is an Eclipse Foundation project. This is not some kind of fringe or third-party thing. This is core to the platform now.
Are they going to do visual design for JSF? Kind of like Creator?
I'm not even going to try and answer that because I would probably.
Anybody here work on Eclipse?
No.
Son of a gun.
Anybody ever write a
Well, let's make up an answer then, so then no one can contradict us.
They're going to do full JSF support in the very next version, the next milestone even. Yeah, because we said it.
Nice.
I don't know. If anybody knows the answer, write in, tell us, and we'll pass it on.
Cool. Ooh. Any other comments just from you guys about Eclipse joining the JCP? Anybody have any thoughts or feelings about the gravity of that? Is it a ho-hum? Is it a big deal?
Come on.
Nikki,
Tracy.
It stands for JCPenney, but I have no idea what's going on.
All right, so we had a vote from the audience that it's JC Pennies. That's what it stands for.
Yeah,
JCP
that's
is
what
Java
JCP
Community
is.
Process.
We'll now be able
Store
to get
number
Eclipse at
273.
JCPenney's.
That's right. Nice. Eclipse is a kind of fruit. It's very good.
No, it's a kind of car.
All right. Right.
So the next one looks interesting. It's closures and events.
So,
It's too bad we don't have Josh Block here because we could have a fist fight
Yeah.
with Neil Gafter, who's also present.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his gloves.
Neil is here in the audience, but no.
So I think we can agree, no matter what, closures equals good.
Closures
Can
are
we
very
not?
interesting, yes.
Yes.
I don't think it's universally accepted that it's no matter what. There is language complexity.
I'm talking about us four. I'm sure we'll get email to the contrary.
I think they're
I'm
okay,
saying
but I don't
that
think
it-
they're critical. I would rather have properties and events before I had closures. That's my opinion.
Okay. Well, we also agree that properties and events are good.
Oh, okay.
We
All
do,
right.
we do agree that.
If we had to choose.
What do you guys mean by events? What are you talking about?
By event,
Wait,
I mean,
repeat the question and then.
I'll repeat the question without this mic. You want to talk for a minute, Neil? Come on.
No, I just want to know what you
All right. So Neil asks, what do we mean by
That's
events?
Neil Gafter, incidentally.
Yeah, Neil.
The Neil. It's like the Tor.
Yeah, the Tor, the Neil. By events, at least what I mean by events is a type. So you could have a field or a property. If you do properties, that's of type method pointer. So you can have, instead of using, well, not even really needing closures, you can just assign a method handler that matches a signature in some object to a field somewhere else. And if you want to invoke that method, you can call that field with whatever parameters. So it lets you do an event as a language level thing, kind of like Delphi or C# or any of those guys.
So you want to have a really convenient way of assigning a block of code to some variable and then going.
Yes.
We definitely need to
Yeah,
get
okay,
that mic
you
out
should
there.
have the mic.
Yeah, we need to get that mic out there.
Okay, so what you want is you want a way of creating a little block of code really easily and assigning it to a variable and invoking it really easily later on.
Well,
That sounds like
yes,
Richard.
yes, but not necessarily. I know
Joe,
what
Joe, as a friend,
Careful, Joe.
No,
be
no.
careful where you place your feet
Am I
here.
leading you
Relax.
down the garden
I
path?
know what he's talking about, and I know why. Smarter than the black cat makes me look. My real personal intention of wanting to have properties and events there is less for the utility of being able to create a block of code and plugging into something. It's more the mentality around developing, instead of a library with interfaces and methods and things that you can call, I want people to create components, which was done in Delphi, and it's a lot of what's done in C# land, where you think of a new software problem, you think of, okay, what components can I build that can be assembled very simply via an IDE. I can set these properties to get its initial state. It has these behaviors that I can program in this way. The same sort of stuff we have at Java Beans now, but at the language level, so people think about new software problems in terms of what set of components should I build to be able to click together to solve this problem. Today, there's a myriad of interfaces and different models for solving stuff, and it's a lot more confusing. It's hard for developers to grasp a new API because they have to sort of learn how the API even works in the first place. So that's sort of my...
So it sounds a little bit like right now when you write a class, right, you have to write the methods and you write the code right there.
Right.
But maybe what you'd like to do is you'd like to say, I have an interface I want, but you maybe want to replace the code for some methods, you want to assign to them somehow or sort of dynamically change the behavior?
More specifically for events. If I have a component that does something, I want to be notified when it happens so my application can respond to that thing happening. I want more encapsulation.
Why don't you make an example with something like a button? Just to explain how the button would be in this way.
Well, that's almost a trivial example. It used to be, way back when, you had to take a button class, subclass it, and override button click or whatever it was in order to customize it.
On click.
On click. So we got Java Beans 1.0, which introduced the notion of events and properties, where you could set the title of the button, or caption, or whatever the heck it's called. I remember in the old button. Then we had JButton, which replaced that. But then you could also add an action performed listener, but it was via a whole bunch of mechanics. You had to create either a subclass of the adapter, or you had to create an instance of the interface and plug it into a listener method. It was all done by convention, sort of conventional pattern recognition, to say, okay, this button thing fires an event when it's clicked and I can listen to it, but it's not at the language level, it's really at the pattern level.
There's lots of
which
plumbing
means,
that went around the
So
whole thing.
the difference between being at the language level and being at the pattern level is how easy it is to use.
well, not so, well, use, yes, but more adoption. If you look across Java,
discovering
across
it,
Java ME, Java EE, and Java SE, they're all totally different patterns to the way you do stuff. A lot of people don't use events at all, and a lot of people don't use properties at all, and you have to know the pattern. You have to have studied Java Beans, which a lot of people haven't, and it's not a thing that's intrinsic in the language itself. So I think, if I had to pick a thing that we screwed up in Java, is that thing. We made it too easy for new APIs to be divergent from each other in usage model. So when a new person comes in trying to learn something, they have to pick what they want to learn. And then they have to spend their time and energy learning that thing, and they learn the way it's used. And that methodology for using whatever that technology is not necessarily going to help them in other stuff. Whereas if everything was components, which, hooray Anders, this is one thing I think he really got right. Everything's a component. The way you use it, the way you learn how to use it, everything is all the same.
So Joe, maybe you can.
He wanted to interrupt me.
So maybe you can just explain why you believe closures isn't enough. Why I can't attach a code block
I have
to a
nothing
button.
against closures. I have nothing against closures. Are cool.
I think it's a
Well, you
separate,
just said you wanted
I think
events
it's-
instead of closures. So
I think they're
explain why
orthogonal.
closures
I think I
wouldn't-
know where he's coming from.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let me
I don't think
see if
closures are bad.
So tell me if this sounds right.
Sure.
The problem with things as they stand today is there's a sense in which the Java language is too flexible, and people can go out there and they can do these kinds of things in their own APIs, and different people can do it in different ways.
Yeah.
And you end up with too many ways out there of people doing these things.
Agreed.
And so if we do it in the language once and for all,
It's done.
then
Damn
that
it.
way everyone's going to have to do it that way because that's the way it is in the language.
Right.
On the other hand,
But I want to build my own button dispatch framework.
But it's also not just that you need to be constrained by the language. It's a lot of the standard JDK libraries that are out there don't follow the same patterns. I mean, at least the standard ones could have followed the same patterns so that other libraries have an example to follow. And
yeah,
it
I mean,
started out
even if it's in the
well,
language, there's still going to be people who are doing it the way we do it today, right?
Certainly. I mean, I'm sure that would happen.
And the other thing that concerns me a little bit is what if we add it to the language, and it solves 80, 90%, but then we discover, say, 2 or 3 years from now, that other 10 or 20% is really important and can't be retrofitted into the language. And then we need another language extension that's kind of similar but kind of different.
I don't know. I studied logic. That sounds slippery slope to me, man. I'm
What
sorry.
if we had
It
one
is,
language
it is, but that's the
extension
whole
that could
reason
solve
why
all
Yeah.
I think it's better
You
to do these
thinking
kinds of
maybe
things in
Scala?
APIs. Because then, you don't have to you don't have to sort of overhaul the language when you get it wrong. You say, well, we got it wrong, we'll deprecate that API and we'll make a new API. And if you can retrofit things into APIs a lot more easily than you can retrofit things into the language, because things in the language are sort of pervasive.
And I'll give you this. Java's over 10 years old. What is it, 12 now? 11? However, it's pretty darn old. And it may be too late for that sort of thing. So I still carry a torch for it. This is something I would love to have seen right at the beginning to get the whole notion of component-oriented programming instead of object-oriented programming. That's so 80s. Let's go to the oddies and use component-oriented stuff. So it may be too late for Java, and that may well be the case. But I think if it were done that way, we'd be a lot ahead of where we are now in terms of people being able to learn our platform and use it easily. I'm getting nods from Neil Gafter. Yes.
So I was just going to say that we've
Just
been
saying, yeah, Joe. Yeah.
we've been kind of
whatever.
We
planning.
know there's no way to stop that machine.
We've been kind of planning on getting Neil on for a little while now.
Yeah,
dancing around how to do it. So that'll keep you going until we get a real interview with him.
Yeah.
That works.
We'll have a wonderful discussion.
Yeah.
I'm all for closures. That sounds good to me.
Oh, then vote on the web. Which
Okay.
Yeah.
Blue closures.
Okay,
or
so
the
Neil, you
red
said vote on the
closures?
web. Where do I vote on the web?
Go to gafter.blogspot.com.
Gafter.blogspot.
Gafter.blogspot.com. Okay.
You got it.
Sorry.
And there's a vote on the right.
Okay.
And if you believe that Java already has closures, then it might be more confusing for you to vote than not to vote.
Okay.
Because then, what does it mean to add closures to a language that already has?
Understood.
There's some debate currently as to what it means to add closures to Java.
You should have a mic.
Yeah.
Talking.
No, that's all right.
All right. You want to summarize that?
Yeah. No, you go ahead.
Do that with the mic.
Do
That
that
could be
with
useful.
the mic.
You need 3 seconds for that
there's
to show up.
there's a vote. Should the Java language include closures? On my blog, gafter.blogspot.com. And your choices are yes, I don't know, and no.
It's too complicated.
It's too complicated. But the other problem is it's not complicated enough. The problem is there's a debate right now about what closures are and whether or not Java already has closures.
So you mean people think anonymous classes are closures?
There are a lot of people who believe that anonymous interclasses are closures. And if you believe that, I'm not sure how you're going to vote on that poll. Maybe the answer is yes, Java should stay the way it is. Or maybe it's no, I don't think you should add something that's already there. Hopefully...
Maybe you could just change the poll to have a fourth option that says Java already has closures.
I don't
you could
think...
sort of account
yeah,
for those.
He doesn't want that.
It's actually not my poll, so I don't have any control over it. I would suggest, if you believe that Java already has closures, you might want to withhold your vote for a little while. And I'll write, I'm planning on writing a blog post that explains why I think Java doesn't have closures. But on the other hand, not everyone will agree with me, so I don't know how much that will help.
Isn't that just life?
I'd like to think of the poll as to being whether people think that the proposal that we've been working on is the right thing to do. But on the other hand, maybe that's just wishful thinking.
Cool. Say love you. Sounds good to me. I'm all for it. As long as events are in there first. Just kidding.
All right. So
Do we have more stuff?
we've got the developer.com awards. I don't know if we want to touch on any of those?
Sure.
Anything that jumps out? Ant won again as the build tool.
Good job. And Ajax won the coveted technology of the year. That's
Yeah.
kind of
You guys,
funny.
just check it out. We got some more listeners over there. We can look
Oh,
at.
there
There's
you go.
another.
Hey, other listeners.
Hey guys.
Where are they?
There's
Oh, in
there's
Sydney. Holy cow.
That's awesome.
We have remote listeners from Sydney.
What time is it in Sydney?
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, well, actually, isn't it the middle of the night or day or? Tomorrow. It's tomorrow. That's freaky.
They're way ahead.
From the future. It's amazing.
Well, how's the weather tomorrow, actually? Anybody? Thinking of going on a bike ride. All right.
So there was one that jumped out at me here.
Good.
IBM
Celsius.
WebSphere application developer won 3 different categories in this.
Wow.
Now, that came as a bit of a surprise to me because we haven't really heard much about it. And I think at this point we've kind of got our fingers at least close to the pulse of what's going on. So
It won
what's
holy
up with
cow.
that?
I'm going to read this
think
for those
they
that
paid
can't
somebody
read our
else.
screen.
Are
IBM
we dealing
WebSphere.
with ballot stuffing here or what?
I bet.
This is not Eclipse, but WebSphere won the development tool category. Other nominees were BA Workshop Studio, Eclipse, Microsoft Visual Studio, Team System, and NetBeans 5.5 Integrated Development Environment. So they won WebSphere development tool. So what is that WebSphere Studio? Oh, this is the high-end Eclipse.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is
click,
the
I got it now.
IBM.
Okay.
This is the IBM official version that's kind of drawn from the Eclipse open source work.
Anybody here use that? I mean, how many people use Eclipse?
Yeah.
Tor?
Tor
No?
does.
Oh, no.
Let the record show I did not raise
How
my
many
hand.
people
Secretly, late at night, Tor pulls out Eclipse.
How many people use a version of Eclipse that they pay anything for? Oh, a much shorter list.
Yeah.
Nobody raised their hand. Let the record show.
They're all busy voting for the poll.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting.
So the other ones it won was Java tool or add-in and open source tool.
Cool.
IBM WebSphere open source tool?
Java tool. So IBM WebSphere was the Java tool. This is hard to parse.
Yeah, it's kind of
Who wrote
weird.
these?
Java tool
notes.
or add-in.
I did.
And best open source
fall
tool,
on my
IBM
sword.
WebSphere. Is WebSphere
can't be the
open source?
tool of the year.
I
It
wouldn't have
can't.
thought.
It's not an open source tool.
Unless they've open sourced it.
I
without
think
us
we
knowing.
would have noticed.
I think we would, yeah. I believe so too.
Something's fishy.
Who knows, man? We'll have
Okay.
to call.
Fishing in Denmark.
All right.
Okay.
All right, what else have we got?
We're
Oh,
into
yeah.
application of the week and applet of the week.
So, application of the week.
Well, we
So I-
better show the goggles one since we're here.
Yeah, we can fire up goggles in a sec. I've got to talk about the first one first because this is me being
Okay.
GTD guy, getting things done.
Okay.
So we have a nice little bit of
I don't have any more.
serenading
Yeah.
going on in the
Somebody's
background.
playing the piano downstairs. So if you hear a piano, enjoy the piano.
Yeah, that's quite
Or
quite
just
relaxing
go
actually.
body check them.
As long as they don't
Jump
have to be bad.
across the back of the piano. All right.
All right, so regular listeners will know that I'm a bit of a getting things done guy. I've been.
There is an objection back here.
Dick's wife.
We had an objection from Jackie. Dick's
okay,
wife.
Dick's
okay.
wife
My
was
wife
enjoying
is
the piano.
objecting to me being a getting things done guy.
Words were, I wish he was like that at home.
She says she wishes I was like
Not
that at
about the piano.
home.
Yeah, get the laundry done, please.
Yeah.
I thought she was complaining about us stopping the piano. That's my bad. Go on.
So getting things done. There's a number of things about that. One of them is minimizing distractions. That's a huge part of it. And JDarkroom, this application of the week, this is about as simple an editor as you can possibly think of. What it does is takes over your entire screen and it gives you nothing else to look at but the file that you're editing right now. So you can't get distracted by email coming in. You can't get, distracted by AIM pop-ups or anything like that. It's just whole black screen, green text, you edit it. It's pretty neat. There's a couple of things. I would like syntax coloring in it, I've got to say. I miss it. I miss the syntax coloring. But if you're looking for something that's kind of interesting and gets you to focus on the task at hand and not get distracted, then
Is
you
it a
might
code
wanna-
editor?
Yeah, it'll edit
It's
anything.
not like a
And
photo.
it doesn't have my project contacts and doesn't let me debug or edit or
That's
it's just
exactly the
only
point.
write the code.
There's one thing you do in it, which is edit files.
Doesn't Notepad have a maximize button there? Just curious.
But you know, stuff can still pop up.
I just
That's
log
the
out of
issue.
X and sit on the command line with VI. It's full
There
screen.
you go, full
It's
screen
perfect.
command line.
My laptop has a little switch on the bottom. I can turn off the wireless network.
Nice. Very
Yeah,
nice.
turning off the network is another good solution.
Yeah, it's basically a modal text editor. That's pretty much exactly what it is. It even looks like an old VT100 green screen terminal.
It starts with J.
I had serious waves of
That's good.
nostalgia when I saw it the first time. So
It has nothing to do with photography.
no, nothing. It's not like Aperture or Lightroom or whatever they are.
Cool.
J
Yeah.
aperture.
J Aperture, yeah.
This is going to be a bit of a tough sell, I think.
You know, I was thinking that as I was working through it. I'm like, not everybody's going to dig this, are they?
I think just Dick.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's still the application of the week.
Basically,
Go
just
Jay
a
Darker.
small tip to those of you using NetBeans, Shift Escape maximizes the editor window, and you can just basically look at only your code. I do that a lot.
Okay.
Shift Escape, toggle back.
Tor actually does that while he's recording the podcast. And we're like, Tor, it's your turn.
Shift escape.
All right,
Yeah.
is it my turn?
Yeah.
Escape door.
Try and fire up goggles there for us while we're.
Goggles.
I haven't run this, so
Goggles. Click the button, Joe.
You gotta see this. So we're firing it up.
We have the link.
Of course,
right
now
over my house.
now Tor has nothing to read.
no, you should cover this. You've run it. Explain
all
it.
right. So
An airplane.
it's.
It looks a lot like an airplane.
It's a flight simulator based around the Google Maps data. So you can actually fly this plane. See if you can kick it off here. But it's kind of a top-down view, but you can fly up or down on the plane. It's just a neat little fun application. It's surprisingly addictive when you start
All right,
playing.
here we go.
There you
Ooh.
go. So there you go. You can fly around and you can fly up and you can fly down. It zooms in and out, and
Wait, is that
It's
my
Really
house?
cool.
yeah,
Looks like my house.
it's kind of fun.
All right, let's figure out where we are.
It's
Go
it's
that
a
way. South.
it's a Biggles plane as well. So
Where are we here?
We're going to my house.
Which freeway is
Are
that?
you sure?
Yeah, you're going the wrong way now, though.
Is there a way to crash it?
No, I don't know.
no, I haven't found one
no,
yet.
You can't just go down.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It did crash.
I never thought to try that, actually. There you go.
Are you
the
telling me
first
you didn't? That's
thing
the
I tried.
first thing I would have tried. Wow.
That's excellent. So,
That's great.
so we're now playing with goggles.
Oh, you guys keep
because
talking, I'm
it's surprisingly addictive.
Oh, that looks like the bridge. That's a toll booth.
No, a future request we should submit is bomb dropping.
Yeah, I want
Yeah,
speed.
so you can nuke your.
Yeah.
I'm going for it.
Ooh, the ocean.
Which bridge is this? Oh, Golden Gate. Can you tell?
And this will not run on the iPhone because the iPhone doesn't support
Steve
Java.
doesn't want it to run on the iPhone.
Sorry, Joe. Sorry,
All
Joe.
right.
All right. So, shall we rattle through the quick news items?
Sure. Let's go
All right.
for super speed.
Super speed.
Terracotta has been open sourced. We have mentioned Terracotta in passing before on the Posse, but never more than a quickie. Anyway, it has now been open sourced under the Terracotta public license, a slightly altered Mozilla public license. Terracotta offers clustering for Java promising high scalability and reliability with heap replication, avoiding the need for serializing objects in order to distribute them, as well as many other features. Bam!
Okay, so Sun has released a high critical vulnerability in the JRE. So this is for JDK 5 and 1.4.2. Basically, you got to get the latest update. And the way you can basically elevate privileges is through the GIF handling in native code. So this is kind of a big deal.
Was that your bug, Tor?
No, thankfully not. But it's been fixed. So basically, I suspect all our listeners always get the latest and greatest. We're probably all on Mustang by now. I mean JDK
Yeah.
6 SE.
That's right.
Well,
You have to
whatever
take
it's
a
called.
shot. You
Okay.
said
SE6.
Mustang. You have to take a
So-
shot.
Yeah.
Okay. JetBrains has released version 0.1 beta of a Ruby plugin for IntelliJ IDEA. For any of those people that use IntelliJ. This is a move to bring it in line with both Eclipse and NetBeans, which are adding or already have Ruby editing and IDE capabilities.
Staying with IDE news, Oracle's JDeveloper has added a GWT, which is Google Web Toolkit, WYSIWYG, I really don't have to spell that out for people, I think, at this stage.
What you see is
Environment.
what you get.
It's called gDevelop. It allows visual design and editing of GWT applications and widgets. It's currently Windows only. Again, there's a bunch of these tools out there that are Windows only. Kind of disappointing for us Linux and Mac users, but Linux and Mac may be available in the future. The gDevelop website also has a GWT mode, presumably written in the new tool. So they're trying out their eating their own dog food there.
Cool.
Nikki should do the next one.
Nikki?
Nikki, come on up, do
Get
the
up
next
here.
one.
So for those who haven't listened in a long
For your
time,
public.
Nikki
see
did
anything.
quick news for us in episode.
Can I
Just read it.
say
It was a
everything?
while ago.
go
Yeah,
right through.
back in June.
Okay.
And we got fan mail. this
Yeah,
time.
we did.
I have fans. I love my fans. I love you all. For all of you listening,
This
I
is
love
Carl's
you.
daughter. Did we say that?
Carl's daughter.
Carl's daughter. Very
Rip
much so.
through it.
Nominations for Duke's Choice Award can now be made. Duke's Awards, or Dukies, are given out every year at Java 1 for the best and most innovative products using the Java platform. If you know of a deserving product, go and nominate it. The nomination process is open until March 15th. Actually understood that one this time.
Good job. I guess I'll do the next one. The Java 4K game programming contest is on again. The idea? To write the best game you can in Java in only 4K. That's 4,096 bytes, including bytecode and resources. In the past, there have been some pretty impressive games submitted despite the obvious challenge of writing something so small. Last year, all submissions were Java 1.4, but this year, there have already been some Java 5 submissions.
I wondered if you used the latest Java. If you, I mean,
gonna
the
have to,
jars are smaller because of the new pack format. Does it count compressed jars, or do you have to look at the expanded bytecode?
You'll have to look up.
Well, certainly. I mean, if you use pack 200, you get much better compression, right? Can't you compress? It's not executable? Really? So, that's shocking.
That makes it even more complicated.
That seems like a little bit of a,
Well, they're measuring bytecode, so unpacked in-memory bytecode.
yeah, that's unfortunate.
Quick news.
Quick, come on. No discussions.
You're up, Tor.
Is it me?
Were you coding?
Sun has released, no. Sun has released what they're calling a preliminary version of the Fortress interpreter. Fortress is a new language being developed by a team led by Guy Steele, which favors high-performance computing and very applicable to mathematical problems. And it's been in the past described as being to Fortran what Java is to C++. That's definitely underselling it. Fortress has some simply mind-blowing ideas incorporated, such as mathematical notation that you can use in the language. And you have some control structures that create mathematical equations that read like a mathematical textbook.
Just
highly recommended.
before you go on the next bit, I'm going to bring up a quick slide that actually shows
let's see some
shows the code.
Fortress
So
source code, because this is pretty impressive.
this is actually Fortress code. I don't know you guys can see that, but
And this looks like a college math textbook.
this
basically.
is something Guy Steele sent us that actually compiles in Fortress. So pretty impressive stuff, I think.
And this actually runs on the JVM, which is why we're talking about it here.
Yeah. Pretty wild stuff. So when you talk about new languages running on the JVM, I think this pretty much defines that.
This is
kind
definitely
of-
new. It's not another web app
Right.
language.
Right. Pretty neat stuff. So anyway.
Does anybody, can anybody interpret this by looking at it?
Oh.
Do you have any serious math geeks here? 42? Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, the answer
Very
is
good.
42.
That's what it is. It prints a 3D rotating 42.
One of the interesting things about
Good
this
job.
language is apparently the comma operator, which in languages like Java means sequential operation, means do things in parallel. So you have things that you have comma, it means do all these things in parallel, which
Yeah.
is kind of a neat thing to be able to do.
Yeah, it's got kind of multiple processor support built into the language. So when you do loops, unless you specify that these things have to be executed in order, they'll just be thrown at multiple processors automatically, that kind of thing. So really,
If you have
really
your
cool stuff.
1,000-core Pentium, you can
Yeah,
just parallelize the whole thing.
there you go, Niagara. That's. So anyway, sorry, Tor.
So you need Java 5 and ANT 165 to run the interpreter. And the focus at this point is on demonstrating the language and not on the performance. And I don't think there's much tool support yet. But anyway, this should be an
Are
interesting
you
thing to
working
keep
on
an
it
eye
yet,
on.
Tor?
No,
Tool
but I
support.
think clearly we will have good NetBeans support. I can almost
Okay.
promise that.
Peter van der Ahe has set up a new Java.net project called the Kitchen Sink Project. The idea is to make a playground where any and all new language features for the Java language can be tried out. Peter is the Sun compiler lead, so presumably ideas that do well stand a good chance of getting serious consideration for Java. This is a great chance to avoid the noisy rhetoric of arguments over the right way to implement some feature, like closures, and allow you to get in and really do it.
Missed it.
The proof is in the pudding kind of idea. It will be quite a curiosity to see if the Frankenstein's monsters that this spawns during some of the experience.
But it's kind of nice that instead of people talking about on the whiteboard, you could basically challenge people to provide a patch. So you could play with it.
Yeah. The session schedule, or is that schedule? I can't remember. Schedule? Okay. The session schedule for the US Server-Side Java Symposium has been finalized for 2007. The Symposium Community Wiki is also available online. There's over 70 breakout sessions, including coverage of Spring, SOA, grids, and Ajax. By grids, this is meaning grid computing, HPC. The symposium runs from March 21st to the 23rd in Las Vegas in the Venetian Hotel. The wiki can be used to suggest BOFs and whiteboard session proposals.
Oh, this is a tough one for me.
Oh, and closures should be on that list too.
Oh, yeah.
Neil Gafter reliably informs us. So.
The janitor has shown up in Kirkland. Awesome. All right, Roberto.
And the lights are out. Oh, that's so cold.
Oh,
that is so cold.
Oh, well. Hey, it's Kirkland. That's right down the street from Microsoft. All right, Roberto. Chinichi blogs that Phobos plugin for NetBeans are now available. Phobos plugins for NetBeans are, okay, there's Phobos plugins is plural. Got it.
Yeah.
Downloading these NetBeans plugins provides you with a development environment for using Phobos, the project that brings scripting languages into Java application services, Glassfish in particular. You get debugging, drag and drop construction of Ajax-enabled applications using JMockey components, syntax coloring, wizards, and more. Mixing the plugins with some of NetBeans' native functionality opens up the possibility of mixing Phobos easily with enterprise features like JPA.
Tor, you're up.
Tor,
Oh,
quick
Apple
coding
has
there.
released Java for Mac OS 10.4. There's 2 10s in there. I'm just going to read it with the X. I prefer that. Java for Mac OS X 10.4.
Oh, I can see the emails coming in now.
Preview to patch 6.
These are the small joys in life, to call Mac OS X in front of Joe and talking about, Yahooing things instead of Googling things in front of these guys.
Tor's one of those guys.
It's very fun.
He learned everything he knows from John Klein.
That's right. The
Don't say
Google
Yahoo.
is just going to get me. Okay, so they've released 5, developer preview 2. This is almost challenging Oracle for best product name. On the Apple Developer Connection, this new release delivers improved reliability and compatibility for Java 2, SC 5.0, and Java 1.4.
Too many notes.
It brings Mac Java up to the 1.5.00 level 7. Okay, yeah, it basically brings it up to something recent, and you get better SWT performance, which is, I guess, really important if you run Eclipse.
Yes.
Does 1.50 patch 07 have that critical?
No, because I think
No,
that
it's
was
09.
level 9.
Yep.
So
You gotta
you're
have update
still
9
opening
for that.
yourself.
So they're announcing a new security vulnerability.
You know what, though? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I think they do include, that Apple includes some of the important bug fixes in
They
early
might, and I'm
versions.
also
They
guessing
kind of
that the
backport
GIF
some of that stuff.
support is so core to the graphics library that I suspect that's the kind of part that they don't use from the RI. When it comes to the actual painting and stuff, I suspect it's going straight into Cocoa or whatever that thing's called.
Graphics.
Core graphics.
Yeah.
Okay.
No
Sun has
comment.
posted an early draft of GSR 271, MIDP3. MIDP is the Mobile Information Device Profile and is one of the 2 specifications for Java on many mobile devices, along with the CLDC. I'm not going to read that. Enhancements include enable and specify proper midlet behavior for CLDC, CDC, and OSGI. Shared components, application lifecycle, security framework, and policy improvements, networking and persistent storage improvements, and more.
Sun has released version 1.0 of Looking Glass. I can't believe it's taken this long to get 1.0, can you?
I can't believe I didn't hear more about it. It seems like a kind of a big deal because it's been 3 years. I mean, I think they demoed Looking Glass when we demoed
2004?
Creator. Wasn't it the same year?
Was
It was like the other
Just
big
quick
deal that
poll.
year.
Do you guys know what Looking Glass is?
2003. So
Have you guys heard of Looking Glass? I know there's some Sun at least Exxon people in here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah, a lot of people are
3D
nodding. Heard of it?
UI.
So Looking Glass is a Java-based 3D user interface. It was demonstrated a couple of years ago, as we mentioned at Java 1 in the keynote. It's now ready for use. Ubuntu packages are available. It also runs on other Linuxes, Windows XP, and Solaris. Not Mac, though, interestingly. It is, well, there's a port there waiting to be done.
Well, I think the reason is that it really ties into native libraries. And in fact, I'm surprised to see that it has Windows support, because for a long time it was Linux only, because
Yeah.
it was really tied to X.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why it's not running on the Mac, because it's fast because it is using OpenGL bindings or something like that. But I guess that makes it tricky to support Macs.
I kind of knew that Looking Glass was coming, but the next one caught me by surprise. It's accompanied by a NetBeans plugin called Plethora, which is at 1.0, which enables NetBeans developers to create applications that take advantage of the new Looking Glass 3D capabilities. And to explain that very quickly, Looking Glass itself will take an existing 2D application and kind of give it this 3D pane to paint on, so you can flip it over and write notes on the back and stuff like that. But the really cool stuff with it is when you start actually exploiting the 3D API and writing applications that don't use rectangular windows anymore, that do stuff in the Z buffer, all that kind of thing. So pretty neat stuff. All right.
Go around. We're done with those notes. Let's guys get in here. Let's do a little bit of history and whatnot. Since this is live and it's our
interaction.
Some audience interaction as well. This is our 100th. We've been doing this for quite a long time.
Look out, there's trouble coming. John Klein is moving forwards.
Audience interaction.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Oh, yeah, very good, very good. That's hilarious.
Test. There we go.
That's good, that's good. Nice. Thanks, guys. We need you the whole time, actually, up here, doing the whole thing.
We have some troublemakers who basically built some signs to help us get a reaction out of the audience.
Oh, that's painful.
That's awesome.
Silence.
Actually,
To
why don't you give some just sort of history of the genesis of this thing? This is your brainchild, and we joined you. So how'd this happen?
All right, well, we've done this a couple of times before, so I'll keep...
John Klein.
Apparently the cue cards work. So just very quickly, I started a podcast called the JavaCast with Brandon Werner quite a while back in time now. We managed to get 4 episodes out through some technical difficulties and increasing in length until we released a 2.5-hour special that actually got us pretty much hate mail coming in. People were like, how can you release a podcast that's 2.5 hours long?
What's the time frame? Was that early 2005?
That would have been, that would have been spring of 2005 we did that. So that was, it was unfortunate we only ever got the four episodes out. We recorded a 5th, which was an interview with Rob Harwood of IntelliJ about IDEA, the IDE there. And after that, basically, it kind of collapsed, and I started looking around for a different way of putting this together. And Tor had been our number 2 interview, I think, on the podcast.
The Tor.
The Tor. And so I invited him to come and join me on it, and he said, only if Carl Quinn comes along. And I said, okay. And actually, funny enough, I'd been debating between Joe and Tor at the time, and I kind of flipped a coin in the end and said, whoever answers yes first gets it. And but they were both working for Sun, so I didn't want it to be too Sun-ish.
Too much Sun. You can't have too many people from the same company.
Well, of course, we've got 2 Googlers now. That's the problem.
You got my
yeah,
joke.
that's the issue there. Hopefully that
Somebody's going to have to go home.
Yeah, someone's going to have to. I think they can forgive us at this point.
Yeah, I think it's all right.
I'm an independent at heart. I'm running on the independent ticket, as they say.
Eventually, we'll all be at Google anyway, right? Is that
eventually.
the way it's going to work
Everybody
out?
in the Valley will be at
It's
Google.
like Taco Bell will be the only restaurant. Google will be the only tech company.
What do you mean? What do you mean Taco Bell will be the only?
Google
will be the only restaurant. Have you eaten here?
My bad.
Have you eaten here? Oh, bite me. So,
well, the big problem with having everybody from Sun was just that it would seem like it was a loaded podcast, right? Just propaganda from Sun about Java. So we wanted
We should point out, too, in case people don't know, I mean, Tor and Carl and myself all worked at Sun at the same time. And Dick was our, our super beta tester for the product we were working on.
Pain in the ass.
No, it was actually quite nice. So that's how we all met. Well, actually, I had worked with Carl many, many years ago at Borland, and then the three of us met working at Sun, and then we met Dick as a customer, and Dick had this podcast thing, and if he had all of us, that would have been, a Sun cast, which is kind of boring.
Traitors.
Only Tor is still at Sun. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Sympathy, we don't have that card.
Yeah, they need a sign that says sympathy. Oh. But we try really hard to basically be pretty objective. So
yeah. Actually, it's kind of cool because we're watching John really try hard to get the right card out at the right time now.
That's good.
Keep him on his toes here. So anyway, that's kind of how it came off. So now what we should do is throw the mic out there and just take some questions and take our life in our hands.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions?
Yes, sir.
3, 2, 1.
All right, back on the air.
Great joke.
That was the best part of the whole show. I got to go to the bathroom.
So I want to know if you guys are really on top of all of this stuff, or do you get press releases or something? Because half the time you're talking about stuff I've never heard of. And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who care about the things I've never heard of and have never heard about the things I care about. But I don't know how you keep on top of it all, or do you like everybody sends you press releases to make sure the stuff gets mentioned?
Well, my preparation level is basically to bring up this page and read it. So the person who does a lot of the work is Dick. He actually spends, I don't know how many hours, maybe Jackie could tell us the real truth, hours.
And Tor is good because he actually reads it before he gets on the air.
Whereas
I try to maybe try some of the
just
links.
wing it.
Yeah. So basically, Dick does a lot of work to actually go through, using some search engine,
Various
presumably.
Google technology.
Yes. He goes and trawls all the related Java news sites and basically picks out what he thinks is discussion material, what's quick news item, and sorts it. And then sometimes we rearrange it a bit based on our feedback.
Yeah.
And then we go through it. And sometimes we have more discussion. For example, the iPhone stuff, I think we've all been reading blogs and we have opinions on it, coming into it, and we'll discuss it.
Yeah.
Whereas typically application of the week, I don't think anyone ever runs it except the person who nominates it.
I'm going to turn this around and say that I actually have the easy job, which it may be time consuming, but what I do is I put together a bunch of RSS feeds. The news comes in. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but there's this concept of a river of news, basically. That they talk about it a lot in RSS, in the RSS world, where you just get loads of news coming at you. And it's kind of easy when you get enough news sources because the really important stories get covered multiple times. So they jump out at you immediately. So you can easily pick those out and talk about them. Then you get the ones that you're scanning through and there's a keyword that catches your eye and you kind of put that down. So it's time consuming what I do, but it's not any more complicated than what these guys do. What everybody here brings to this is pretty much at least an adult lifetime of experience in Java development, so they can talk about this stuff. That's the thing. It's not like
I'm not an adult yet, though. So
Yeah, Joe's only 15.
yeah, I'm 15. So.
Joe's got a couple of years in it, but yeah, so that's kind of how that works. It started off really hard trying to sound knowledgeable on stuff that I'd just been reading the week before. As time goes on, it becomes kind of addictive, and you just get to be on top of it. And it takes a lot of work, but it's kind of fun being on top of the news as it comes in as well. So,
and for a while, we thought that the really worthwhile part of the podcast was when we would discuss one or two big topics. But then we got overwhelming feedback that people like the quick news items just to get a way to keep on top. Because a lot of people don't actually read 50 news feeds on Java technology. So it's a good way for them to make sure they didn't miss something possibly important.
Yeah, and I've got to say that, I mean, a lot of the work is done by other people whose RSS feeds that I read.
Yeah.
So there's
You're just
there's a bunch of them.
aggregator.
Yeah, kind of a human aggregator, a semi-selective one.
So there's more data on this too. I'm taking nothing from Dick, though he's English and he really doesn't like getting credit for stuff, so let's just stop. Dick does it.
You didn't really do it.
Put that down.
Yeah, I don't really do anything. I drink beer.
We now have the news group, so we have a lot of people discussing all sorts of different topics in the news group, so we get some items from there. We have a lot of people email us stuff saying, hey, did you see this? Usually we've seen it by then, and we get it from there. We also do get press releases. We also get pre-announcements. Like, we're on the super list from Sun. Like, we can get, this is awesome, we can get interviews with the architect of whatever that they're going to announce next week so that we can record it and release it at the same time. So it's big enough now.
The whole open source thing rolled out that way.
Yeah.
We got interviews of the guys who were open sourcing each part of Java.
And we should point out, just in case anyone's listening, that this is not a facility that we hold open just for Sun. If anybody else wants to do that, we're more than happy to talk to you.
And we are getting
send us an
books
email.
from publishers, and that's kind of cool. We're getting these
Nope.
press releases as if we're press.
Now, what we
It's
need
very
is a
strange.
publisher that can send us a bookcase, because I'm out of room for all the books.
We get lots of books.
Yeah.
It's been weird. It's been very viral in growth. You know, we don't really do any advertising other than our podcast. And if you go to iTunes and search Java, we're the #1, and the popularity bar is all the way to the right. Because for this particular topic set, we're kind of like the podcast that has it covered. So it's really, it's been really lucky to grow the way it's grown. And we have, what's our number now? I mean, our average?
We probably get, on average, we probably manage about 7,000. We've peaked, I think, a couple of them have gone as high as 9.
There you go.
So
Like 7,000
that's
to
a lot of
9,000
downloads
of a podcast.
something that's fairly, I mean, that's half of Java 1 right there. So
Pretty cool. Yeah.
well, thank you. Well
In case
timed.
the camera can't see it, there's some people over there with cards that say applause on them.
Yeah.
You got to walk like one of those ladies at the boxing ring.
Yeah.
There it is. Nice.
So
We didn't ask them to come.
yay!
Oh, yeah.
We got
There's a
real
baby in the
applause from the
background.
back.
Any other questions?
We were going to thank your host.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I thought we should thank our hosts. I
I
mean,
think
they
so,
actually
too.
brought beer, which we promised at Java 1 and couldn't
And
deliver.
delivered
Couldn't do.
6 months
Yeah.
later.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So I should point out that Jackie and I are in the process of moving pretty much across the country right now. It's been a pretty busy time. This was thrown together really at kind of the last minute because we had episode 100 coming up, and we weren't even quite ready. We had to do a 99.5 to get the time to do it. At some point, we're going to have some kind of like celebration in a bar somewhere or something like that.
125.
But we should
That'll be
really
my
say...
100.
Yeah. 125, yeah, that'll be your 100th,
There
that's
you go.
right. So we could do that. But
That was a slow starter.
That's right.
we do want to say really thanks to Google for setting this up. It's been awesome to have, I mean, when you compare it with the BOF, which was a lot of fun, but where we got into the room and there was a single mic and a speaker set up and really kind of wasn't, you know, it wasn't set up right for what we needed. This is great. We've got microphones each. We've got beer, food. They've just been really kind to
I don't think the Java 1 and Rangers expected that we would have many people because there's a
Good
lot of these
standing room.
meet the blah blah team at Java 1. They typically have 8 people.
That's average.
Yeah. And
We had a packed standing room. So all you people,
I
I'm
think
looking at
this
the
year we're going to
camera.
get better facilities.
Yeah,
hopefully.
looking at the camera, if you were at Java 1 and you were stuffed into that room and there was no beer, you should have come down tonight because we got a whole bunch of beer left. And we got plenty of room.
That wouldn't put it quite like that.
Oh, it's gone.
Joe stole the
Oh, the
opener.
opener's right here.
That was to keep the beer from running out.
Coming.
Yeah. Good move there.
And I think if we're going to do thank you, I guess we should also thank people for coming out tonight.
Yeah,
and all our
thanks you
listeners
guys.
for downloading our podcast.
Thank you very much.
We're the best audience ever.
Yeah.
You guys are great. Try the veal.
So
Any other questions, or shall we end it here?
I want to know about your shirt. What's the bird on your shirt?
Oh, the bird on the shirt. Okay. So Java 1, anyone who's been to Java 1, I'm sure will know Bruno Souza, even if they don't know him by name. He runs around with a Brazilian flag on his back, wearing it like a cape. So he's kind of hard to miss. The guy with the Brazilian cape thing that runs around.
Yes.
And he wanted to come up with a mascot for
Oh, thank you.
Java user
Oh, yeah,
groups. And so he couldn't use Duke at the time. Duke wasn't yet open sourced. He is now, incidentally. Duke is released, I think, under the GPL now?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Some license.
But at the time he wasn't, so he had to come up with some other kind of mascot. And he came up with the Java finch, which is a bird that is, I believe, native to South America. And so he called him Juggy, the Java finch. And he was running around at Java 1 giving out these T-shirts, which was pretty cool. So.
Oh, he's taking it to new heights. He actually did an interview with the Java Polis.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so there's actually this bird.
Kicking
The bird was
doll.
interviewing Stefan.
What's
Yeah,
that?
the bird was interviewing Stefan. It's on
Yes.
the Java
Yeah.
Polis website.
Correct.
Didn't he also have a video where the bird was like kicking people and knocking them out or whatever?
That wasn't the bird.
That wasn't the bird, was it? That was something else. That's right. That's right.
Okay.
So we have
No,
another
Juggy's not
sponsor.
violent.
We have another
No,
sponsor to
Juggy's
thank,
a
actually. We
peaceful
should do that.
Java finch.
So we have another sponsor to thank, Senqua. Did I say that correctly? Yeah, all right. They were nice enough to bring a huge bag of shirts if people want shirts. And on the back of this, it says something I can't say.
It's
So it
leap
says it in
hacksaw
hex?
speak.
Yes, it's hack speak. Basically, it says,
We
go
would
away,
lose our clean
I'm
tag,
coding.
basically, if we were to read it.
Yeah, don't.
So there's a whole bunch of these shirts. If you guys want one of these, feel free to come up and take one.
So
Take
this is
one
the
for your
company that
kid.
does Fisheye and Clover, which is a code coverage tool, and
Crucible's the new one.
Crucible.
Crucible.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Thank you
very
very much.
T-shirts, yay!
Yep, this is very welcome. T-shirts are always cool, and geeks seem to like them.
Yeah,
I know I
perfect
do.
to give to your children so they can wear to school.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Especially with that message on.
Yeah.
So.
You know, I have one of the backpacks from Java Polis 2 years ago.
Go away, I'm coding.
And it's perfect for my daughter. But
Does it say the same thing?
no, I don't know if you know about Java Polis, but they tend to have these a bit risque themes. And this one basically has all spoons basically bent in the shapes of all the Kama Sutra positions.
That's excellent.
If you search my blog, you'll see the picture because I blogged about it. But
Oh, man.
it's
I think
one
my
of those things
blocker comes in. It
you
doesn't want
can't
your
really give that
blocker.
stuff to your kids because you can get in trouble with the school district.
My kid goes to school with a Java 1 bag.
So.
All right, so unless anyone has any other questions,
Okay.
Comments?
we suck.
All right. Thank
Oh, let's
okay.
do, you know what, this is a
All
fun,
right,
a quick,
we got a question
another
here.
question.
Where's,
I'm going to
where's
do a poll when he's done. He's coming.
Is this on, Neil?
Yep, it's on.
Hi, I'm Dave Bruchetti,
Hey, Dave.
and it was real fun to hear your voices tonight and connect them to your faces, and I wonder if any of you have been on BART or going around the Bay Area and had anybody recognize you just from your voice, from the podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen,
It's Dick
it's Dick Wall of the Java Posse.
That happens to Dick more than anybody. Yeah.
So not so much on BART, but definitely at Java 1 last year. It was kind of a unique experience. I got it, this was actually on the developer day beforehand, and I was just standing in line chatting away to some work colleagues, and all of a sudden this guy turns around and says, "Hey, aren't you on the Java Posse?" So he pretty much picked up the accent, I think, straight away. So.
No, but there's a better part than that. You were also walking
got
into a
keyed out.
session
Oh, no,
where the
that was-
session speaker recognized you and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, it's Dick Wall of the
That
Java
was-
Posse,"
well, that was actually-
which we are never going to let you live down.
And you never even were paying attention. to
The problem there was I was doing a
doing the
tour.
notes.
I was doing a tour and actually working on something on the computer. And
You were doing show notes.
I was
Yeah.
working on the podcast, and the guy kind of points me out, and I'm like, I was like caught in like a deer in the headlights. I was like, okay.
So these troublemakers over on the left here,
Forget about all the women asking for their autograph.
That's right.
yeah,
all the cocktail waitresses.
the lady you
come
put
in.
up to it in the
Yes, we went
in
to-
the W in the morning.
I don't remember hearing anything about it.
so we went to some pubs later on that night, and John Klein here, who's now at Google, had a lot of fun basically introducing Dick to the waitress saying, "Did you know this is Dick Wall of the Java Posse?"
We really should talk about Tor's groupies.
Yeah.
No, we should not.
Tor's groupies?
Tell us about Tor's groupies.
Yeah, tell us about Tor's groupies, John.
Yeah, well, the one took Tor's hat, right?
Oh, the one that
that's
the one that took the hat and beat it up. And
Fortunately, he's a guy, but
Problem with engineering.
Yes.
not that there's anything wrong with that.
Geek fame is fleeting. Very fleeting.
any other
Any last questions?
questions, comments?
So I'm going to do a quick poll if nobody has any
Java
more
poll.
questions. Is how long have people been listening? So if you go back, let's say like episode 50.
Yeah. If it,
Well,
if it
family
seems
doesn't
like an
count.
eternity, please raise your
Yeah,
hands
let's go
now. Okay.
For
Anybody
those who
been-
wonder when it will end,
Yeah.
Anybody listen to all of them, like starting at 1? Wow.
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 Jackie,
Thank
you
you.
don't count. Family doesn't count. But you have to listen.
All right.
All right. Oh man, I get in so much trouble every time.
This podcast is total and utter pants. This
Pants.
podcast is total and utter pants. Pants apparently means crap. Podcast.
Podcast.
This podcast
That's pretty good,
is
actually.
total and utter pants. I learned from Jackie that it's not pants, it's punts.
Pants. Pants. Yeah.
Punts.
Are you going to do one?
bloody hell are you doing? Yes, I would like some
I'm not even
shots.
gonna
Like a couple of
Come on, give
times.
us your Australian
there's
one.
There's enough audio of me trying to be British.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all right.
Crocodile Dundee. over
Okay,
here.
I think we should wrap it up.
All right,
wrap it up.
All right,
Thank you.
so wrapping it up, thank you very much. There will be a surprise on the end of the podcast for anyone who listens. We're not going to give it away now, but you will hear the surprise by listening. So, and that's it. Good night. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming
Grab a
out.
t-shirt.
Good luck.
Here's to another 100 episodes, I guess.
That's right. Cheers.
Now get to
Cheers,
work.
guys.
To another 100 episodes. Try and ignore the fact that all the beer is empty.
Beer's empty and I'm drinking Gatorade. Cheers. Woo.
Okay.